Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Jonathan Theros. I'm one of the creators of Neural Consult, and I'm here to do a full walkthrough of the Neural Consult site. There's always a lot changing on the site, so we like to keep these as up to date as possible. Though keep in mind, a lot of these things will change whether you're using Neural Consult through your school or on the Neural Consult site itself. But this should give you a general overview of how to work the site as of September 2025. So I'm going to start actually by walking you guys briefly through the dashboard and then the file drive, and then we'll go feature by feature. And I will basically show you generally how to use each one, and then there'll be bookmarks at the bottom to jump to each one if you want to jump right to the chase on one of the individual features. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So this is the dashboard. Here you'll see a quick view of the search, which also has its own tab. Here you can choose which sources you'd like to use, whether it's all your files, clinical practice guidelines, or medical journal web sources. You can kind of choose which ones you'd like to preference. I would say the most popular one, if not all, is using your uploaded files in particular, and we can chat through what that looks like. Just some basic widgets on the dashboard here. You have your file drive, your daily games. We'll talk about the file drive. Daily games where you can compete on question of the day or OSCE of the week. Your AI notebook, which we'll talk about, flashcards, your board questions. You can see some weaknesses here, the OSCE hub, study sessions, and then your performance on daily games, cases, flashcards, questions, whatever you're looking for. You can kind of get a nice widget of the overview of your performance here. So basically each of these widgets connects to one of the features that we're going to go through, and it allows you to kind of jump right back in where you were at. So to start, I think the easiest way to understand the site is to start with the file drive. So the file drive here is essentially, you can think of it as like, similar to a Google Drive or something like that, where essentially you have all the files you've uploaded, you can organize them into folders, and then you can actually view them. So, if you want to, this is an article about atherosclerotic disease, essentially you can view the file as well here, similar to how you may be able to do in any other file folder. Again, pretty consistent with other resources. You can add these into folders, but really the difference here is the generation option, which is essentially the bread and butter of the site. To upload things to your file drive, you'll essentially just pull them right into here. You'll get this upload widget. Essentially, this is taking the file and putting it into your own individual database, where it will be referenceable throughout your entire site. So really the difference here is that you're actually creating something useful with AI that you can reference later. So this hyponatremia lecture is now right here. And we'll talk about this generate option. You can generate from here. It's easier to understand from other folders. If you want to add these to different folders, you can just check the box, move the folder, and we'll put it right here into the residency folder here. And then, if you want to check it out, you can kind of go within the different folders. So this is kind of your basically your private file drive on the site, which powers the rest of your site. So once you've put something in here, then we can kind of start moving through the different features. So one of my personal favorites, kind of day-to-day usage, is your AI-powered search. So we'll start here. Again, you can use all sources. I'm going to use all sources just for now. That way we can kind of see what each one of these looks like. But then you can just imagine if you only select your uploaded files, it's only going to choose those. So these are just some recent searches I had. But since we just uploaded a file on hyponatremia, we can say, what is the diagnostic workflow for hyponatremia? And essentially what this is going to do is it's going to look through all those file sources on the top there, including the hyponatremia article that we just uploaded, in addition to, typical journal sources, things like that online, and put those all together into a nice citable search for you. So I would say, putting everything together and kind of doing that takes a few seconds. I think, this feature right now averages about 20-ish seconds to start delivering you a stream of an answer here. But basically what you're going to see is it's looking at the entire, all the sources that you have, web sources, and then guideline sources. And these are actually streaming as it goes, so that's why it's still, adding things here. And as you can see, it cited about 16 sources to give us a good answer here. It also pulled some images from the file that I uploaded. And basically, what we aim for our searches is that every single line in the search is cited. Essentially, this is kind of how we think about AI as a formatter as compared to a thinker. And essentially, it's taking all the information and then putting it into a way that really fits well for what your specific question was, but then making every single thing verifiable. So if you can see, these are all the web sources 11 through 15. Our sources here, hyponatremia, if you remember, we uploaded that lecture. You can actually view the source here that we uploaded. And again, these can all be directly viewed right in line with what you were searching. So again, here's your lecture, your upload once again. Essentially, then there's also search suggestions for follow-ups, and then I'll point this out a few times as we go through the site. But Glia is someone you can ask follow-up questions to. I don't understand the labs to order. And then basically Glia will look and see what you're doing. You can ask her follow-up questions. You can also talk to Glia directly. You can actually switch on this voice feature and then actually talk to her. I'll show you really briefly what that looks like.
Hi there. How can I help you today?
Hi, Glia. I don't understand what tests I should be ordering for a patient with hyponatremia.
No problem. The key tests you should order in a patient with hyponatremia are 1. Serum osmolality to confirm.
So you guys get the point. Essentially, she knows exactly what you're looking at. You can talk with her, and you'll see that that's a common theme throughout the entire site. Next, we can look at the AI notebook. This is another really intuitive feature. I think, again, thinking about how this builds off of the file drive, essentially you can build new folders here. And then what this is doing is actually taking those files and putting them into useful summaries that you can reference and organize. So, we did that hyponatremia lecture. We can do it again here. So essentially you open the file drive, add your lecture uploads. You can also just upload things, straight up from here. As you saw me do on the file drive, you can just pull in your files. I think you can do up to 5 at once here. Yep. And then you can choose some customizations. You can generate a podcast, which we'll do here. And then, you can choose different content length preferences. You can choose some additional notes, focus only on third year medical student information, things like that. So we'll go ahead and generate. Essentially what this is doing here is this is creating an entire, usually about 7 to 15 minute podcast. And then we'll also create a lecture summary or a file summary that you can edit, highlight, ask Glia about, and then also spin into other resources, which I'll show you right after this. The slow step here is creating a podcast. So if you don't do a podcast, then it will load very, very quickly. But here, to do an 8-minute podcast, took about 15 seconds. So here you can listen to your podcast.
Good morning, and welcome back to another episode of Neural Consult Brief, the show where we break down medical topics. Hyponatremia is associated with increased morbidity and mortality.
That's right.
So you guys get the point on that one. We'll also be adding some more customizations to the podcast feature shortly. As I said, this video is as of September, and there's a lot of updates that come through. Essentially, all the summary then takes your entire file, puts it into something useful. You can ask Glia about various parts. You can highlight, you can underline, you can actually edit example here. And then essentially what you can do is use this as your own notebook. So in addition to, having this just typical drive feature where you have all your files, right now you have something, your first really useful thing where one, you can search everything that you've ever uploaded in the internet, but also now you can take the AI, to use AI to take those lectures and turn them into something that you can actually work with. And then here it makes nice little tables for you, talks about VAPTANs, things like that, whatever is within the file, and then actually pulls images from the files as well with appropriate citations. So that's your notebook. Those can all be put into folders, as I said. So here, let's say I put this in my outpatient medicine folder. Again, this is just an old lecture. You can actually view the actual file itself here if you're curious. And then what we will talk about a little bit later is actually spinning them into these other resources, which we will talk about. So next we'll move on to Board Question Hub. This is another very popular feature that essentially allows you to generate questions based on your files that you've uploaded. So you can view your exam analytics here, but first we'll start with actually generating a new test. Essentially, there's a few different options we use to kind of set as the baseline for your questions. So board questions by topic. This is kind of your go-to if you don't actually want to use a file as a reference. You just want to use our database. You can choose what exam you're studying for. Generic questions, generic board questions. But for now, I'll show you this is pretty straightforward. So I'll show you the file drive. For the file drive here, again, you're choosing your files to set as the basis of the information. Again, we'll use this same file. You can choose up to 5 files for this one. Let's say we want 15, maybe we'll do 20 questions. We do up to 40 at once. You'll have to choose what style you want. So this will just be kind of 1 to 2 sentence, straightforward questions. This will look kind of like a generic board question where there's a vignette. We'll do that for now, but again, you can choose whatever style you'd like. And then essentially, you can also upload the files right here as well. And then you go to create questions. What this is doing now is this is looking at the file itself to basically grab tidbits of information to write questions on kind of randomly throughout the file. So, 20 questions for, a reasonable length file, should give you a pretty good overview. But again, it depends on the file length. If you have a short file, you're going to get a lot of, similar questions. If you have a really big file, 40 questions might not be enough to actually cover all the information. So, sometimes we recommend breaking them up into bits and pieces to try to get a better overview. But usually, on a classic 1 to 2 hour lecture or a, 10 to 15 page PDF, you're able to get a pretty good overview of the lecture with 20 to 40 questions. So as you can see now, the lecture or the questions have started to return. They'll kind of stream in a return here. What we're looking at here is questions that are directly based on the file. And what's really cool, and we don't actually have to go through these, is what you'll be able to do is actually view the source exactly where it got the question that it's doing here. So this one's got a question about Vaptans. Again, there's a therapy with a Vaptan. It gives you a nice correct answer explanation. You can always ask Glia for more information if you want the question broken down, basically teaching you how to think a little bit through these questions. And then again, we have up to 20 here. Some of them are still returning. And essentially you have, you can get nice tables. You can get lab findings. It essentially does everything that your typical board questions will have. And then again, these nice answer explanations with sources. So you can really see exactly where it got the information that it's testing you on. And again, you can go back and view the exact file. It will tell you where to look. So page number 4 in hypovolemic hyponatremia. So we can move to page 4. This is where it got the information that it asked this question on. So everything's verifiable while you're working through your questions. Then if you go to the end, we can actually just finish the test here. It's going to say we haven't completed all the questions. That's okay. And here you can get a nice overview of all the things that you've done, what all the questions were based on, the system. These are all mapped to board competencies. And then you can actually jump to your overall analytics where you can actually see all of the things that you've done so far on the site, what you're good at, what you're bad at, and then actually see how you're doing compared to the rest of the field. The key here is that each question is mapped to topics and board competencies. So when you're doing your step 2 questions, it really will be connected to those step competencies, and then we'll also place you on a standard distribution. So next, we'll go to the Flashcard Hub. Essentially, what you're looking at here is a very standard way to work through flashcards with spaced repetition. So as many of you know, spaced repetition is kind of the way to learn information long term, especially when you're dealing with topics in medicine like pharmacology or microbiology that really require a lot of route memorization over years and years. Spaced repetition is kind of the key. So flashcards, while maybe on the more less exciting side, can really be streamlined with AI, and essentially that's what this feature does. So you can kind of see all of your uploads here, all of your example decks, and then you can see your progress, how many cards you have due today, and then we can actually go through how to actually use the feature. So you can import a deck. This is actually if you want to import an Anki deck, you can actually put in that deck into the site here, and then I'll also show you can also export to Anki once you create with AI. But essentially the way this works is similar to all the other features where you can decide what you want to build your flashcards based off of. You can choose which flashcard types you want, your classic closed deletions, multiple choice style, true, false, basic question and answer, the maximum number of cards you want. Let's say we want 30. And then you can choose your lecture uploads from your file drive. Again, we'll choose this lecture. You can choose more if you like, or you can upload your own. And then you just press create flashcards. So this is going to create a maximum of 30 flashcards with the 3 types that we chose, all based on that hyponatremia file and that we uploaded at the very beginning here. Basically what this is doing is this is writing individual flashcards. You'll see here you'll be able to edit each flashcard and be able to export those to Anki if you'd like, or study them on the Neural Consult site. And as you can see here, we have each card is nicely presented to us. It actually will pull images that are relevant to the card. So as you can see, each card here has a front, back, and an image, as long as it's relevant. Again, these are different algorithms. So as you can see, it's been able to pull each of those. You can edit the card. You can add your own image if you'd like, front or back. And then at the very end, you're also able to add new flashcards. So if you'd like to create your own flashcard to add to the deck, you can do that as well. And then from here, you can save the deck. So if you want to do, we'll call this test demo deck. You can add tags if it's easier for you, save that. And then from there, you can download it as an Anki file. You can study the deck, or you can share it to study groups, which I'll show you guys in a little bit. But essentially, you can share this to your classmates who are also on the site. You can download to Anki, or you can study now. This is what it looks like to actually study the deck. You have your closed deletions. It will show you the image, and then you can also view the sources, as you can do on every single part of our site. Everything is verifiable. And then you choose hard, good, or easy. This just basically has an internal algorithm of when to show you the card again, which is really that spaced repetition philosophy. So we'll say this one's easy. This is a true or false question. Again, we can always ask Glia, can you tell me more about this? Essentially, if you're not really understanding the question, Glia's absolutely great. I think one thing that we thought was super important that we got a lot of requests for was being able to do this, to be able to say, what does euvolemic mean? And essentially, you can just highlight this, ask Glia, and it will tell you about it. I think there's a lot of hard words and acronyms in medicine, and I think this is super useful for that. Okay, so that is flashcards. Again, I think the key here is that just everything is super easy. You can go from start to finish studying in really seconds, and then everything is verifiable. You can actually, again, view the source if you'd like. We've done this a million times, but you guys get the idea. So that is flashcards. Everything will be here. I think the last point is if you want to view or edit all your decks, it's right here. Sometimes people miss this button. This will allow you to edit and change all of your decks. Next is the OSCE Hub. So this is essentially where, kind of our flagship feature that basically allows you to simulate clinical scenarios with AI. So in the OSCE Hub, you'll see a leaderboard, you'll see some of your own stats. We have a badge system to see, if you've gotten the highest score amongst every other person who's taken the case. And then there's an overall leaderboard with everything. So gamified and makes it a little bit more fun. There's a couple ways to start a case. You can start up here. It says start a case. You can use a common case. These are about 100 cases that we've created for you guys, all MD vetted, really, high quality cases. Every single one of them, or almost every single one of them, have images associated. A lot of them have sounds as well, which I'll show you. So you can listen to lung sounds and things like that. Or you can build a custom case. These custom cases, I'll show you in a little bit, essentially are created based on a file that you've uploaded, which again are really cool and one of a kind. So let's say we want to go through, this is one where I know the diagnosis, so it'll be a little bit more interesting. So this one is Marcus Delgado, 48-year-old man with chronic nasal congestion and cough. So there's two different types of OSCEs you can do. The full OSCE, which is kind of your traditional do a history and then kind of move on to the computer post encounter. And then this one, you basically do your entire encounter start to finish in one setting. So we'll start with the full OSCE. And I can show you guys how to work through this. So you get, your one pager, basically your chart outside the room, says, I think this guy's in the emergency department. He's got nasal congestion, sinus infections, and a new cough with sometimes a bloody sputum. So let's go ahead and talk to Marcus.
Hi, doctor. I'm Marcus Delgado. Thank you for seeing me today.
Hi, Marcus. My name's Dr. Theros. It's great to meet you. Can you tell me what's bringing you in today?
Yeah, so I've been dealing with this nasal congestion for months now, and these sinus infections that keep coming back. And I've also got this cough that sometimes has a little blood in it. It's just been going on for a while, and I feel really tired all the time.
So essentially, Marcus is someone that you can talk to. You can go back and forth. You can interrupt. I think for the sake of time, you guys can test that one out. But essentially, you can do a full interview of Marcus. Do your full HPI, your old carts, whatever mnemonic that you use. Ask him about his past medical history and everything. If you ever get stuck, again, you can ask Glia. What's an empathetic response to say to Marcus? And Glia will give you an example. Standard history. What parts am I missing? What should I say next? And I think this is really, really helpful for learners that are trying to kind of up their game when it comes to taking a medical history and having that expert tutor right with you, especially when you're first learning. You can take notes here, but once you're done with your history, you can move on to the post encounter. So essentially what you're going to get here is starting with a physical exam. You'll get some vital signs, a general physical exam. On this one, there's a nice image. This is what's called a saddle nose. So for those of you who know this kind of pathognomonic finding, you'll know kind of where this case is going. But, there's open source images that are associated with each case. There's also sounds you can hear. I'm not sure if it will come through, but we'll play it just anyways. These are some lung sounds. So you can actually hear those crackles. And, again, when you, some of these cases will give you the interpretation, some of them won't, just kind of depends on the difficulty. And then here's a rash for Marcus as well. And it tells you, I believe, that it does not blanch. So we have like a purpuric kind of non-blanching rash. Basically here, it'll tell you, I think this is a Wegener's. So, this is granulomatosis with polyangiitis. What tests do we want to order? we can do many other things, but just for the sake of time, we can kind of move through this. You'll get your lab findings, any imaging that's ordered. We got a CT scan, and then a chest X-ray. You can kind of look at that, interpret that. Sometimes it will be key to the case. Sometimes it will just be information. As you guys may know, this is kind of like real life. Sometimes there's extraneous information. Sometimes there's really key information like this. If you get a biopsy of his lymph node, you'll see this, which is a large caseating granuloma, which is pretty key for granulomatosis with polyangiitis. Go through. We'll put whatever here just to move through. And then in terms of, there's an interval progress section in this one. So essentially you get some interval history, more physical exam findings. It asks you to write a SOAP note to practice your documentation, and then how you would change his care. From this point, now and also, you can talk to Glia the entire time, but basically now we've activated the grading portion of the site. So this is going to look at your transcript from what you said to Marcus, and then it's also going to look at your question and answer section and give you custom feedback with AI. So not great for us here. We only asked one question, but that gave us a nice 1 out of 10. It tells you what you could do better. If you didn't ask about medications, right? 0 out of 4. So it'll also give you some overall feedback. Again, this is, kind of tough to do because we only asked one question, but, this is kind of what it will look like. And then for the question and answer section, you'll also see that basically every single question is answered or gives you a custom feedback for your response on each one. It shows you the red, yellow, green, depending on how well you did. A lot of red here for us. And then your case summary, which actually tells you about, what is the answer and why is it that way, and kind of the case summary. So this is your OSCE simulation. This is your full sim. There's 100 cases that we have for you guys, in addition to the ones you can create yourself, which I'll also show you very briefly. The one thing I did want to show you as well is, that other OSCE mode. So you have the full OSCE. We can jump over to the quick case here. So this is the same case with Marcus, but this essentially is a new way to tackle the case. So all the information is the same, and you can interview Marcus here, but now instead of just taking notes and being given the information that you need, you have to request it. So if you want vital signs, you have to ask for vital signs. If you want labs, you will have to ask for labs. So, if you want a CBC, you're going to have to do that. If you want to order a, let's say, lymph node biopsy, you can cut right to the chase, and this should show your, granuloma here that we saw in the other one. So again, you have your physical exam findings while that's loading. You have, in this one I didn't show you the image, but you basically have the interpretation of the lymph node finding, and then, you can order things like a chest X-ray, things like that. But this essentially is all on you to determine what you need done, and then here you can see the chest X-ray. And then from there, this one, you can always ask Glia for help. But from there, you then are asked to figure out the diagnosis and then, the treatment. And basically what the AI will grade you for here is not as much about the history, but more about the actual workup, management, and diagnosis. So we got the diagnosis right. Our management was okay, just saying steroids. And then our workup wasn't very good. We just kind of jumped to lymph node biopsy and things like that. That didn't really make a lot of sense. And then you can get a nice case summary. It tells you what you should have done and what you could do better next time. So a new way to kind of tackle the same case. This is a little bit more of an advanced version, I would say. A couple other things to round things out, and then I'll tell you guys about study sessions. Actually, before we do that, let me just quickly show you the how to make your own case. So if you press this green button up here and press custom case, you can create the case from scratch or use your file drive. Again, you can basically take any one of your files, put them in here, and then press generate case or generate from scratch. You can say, chest pain, choose a system, choose a rotation, and, old man. And basically you can generate a case here, and it will create a case with AI from what you've uploaded or what you've written. To round out the offerings here, you also have your daily games. You have question of the day and OSCE of the week. This is essentially a board question. This is your OSCE case. And then you also have study groups. This is essentially where you can work together with your classmates and actually share resources with one another. This is an example one that's on the site here. Basically, you can share searches, questions, flashcard decks, OSCE cases, pretty much anything you want. You're actually also able to chat with classmates in here and then attach resources to your chat. So if you wanted to create a discussion post, you can also link a resource that you've done with the text and then send that to your classmates. You actually can compete and kind of see who's done the most studying this week and how everybody's doing. There's a leaderboard of everyone who studied the most. You can compare them to your insights, and then you can see all the members within the group as well. So these are all private groups. You can basically join by request or password, and you can basically share anything that you can create on the Neural Consult site. You can share on here. So if we wanted to share this resource, we'd basically just press upload, and then it would be viewable on this stream for everyone on there for them to add it to their Neural Consult site. So lastly, just to round things out, study sessions. This is a really, really cool feature where essentially you can put all of the features together on the site into one user interface. So if you create a new session, we'll say test demo. We don't have to put in a course we're studying for. Let's say we want this hypertension lecture, this hyponatremia lecture, and this LP(a) lecture. You basically add them in here. You can upload as well, and you press create session. And essentially what you have here now is all of the files in here are all grouped by the 4 resources that you can create: a summary, flashcards, questions, and OSCE simulation. So if we want to stick with the script of this hyponatremia lecture, you can press hyponatremia, and then essentially what you get is this beautiful side-by-side image or view where you can actually view the lecture itself or the file itself, and then you can generate a summary, you can generate cards, you can generate questions, and you can generate a custom OSCE case all from one interface here. So this is all going to basically be running in parallel here. All of these are going to return around the same time. And essentially what you can do is you can look at your summary while you're looking at the actual file itself, and then essentially mark it as complete when you're done. You can do your questions and flashcards, which are still loading along with the case. But essentially everything here is now all in one kind of quick, streamlined interface where you don't have to go and jump through all of them here. You can actually view everything right here. So you can look at your cards and your summary, and these are loading. You can hide or show this the actual file on the left, and then obviously talk to Glia the whole time as you go. So this one is really a great feature because really you can just keep track of everything as you go. We get a lot of lectures thrown at us in medicine in general, so you can kind of keep track. You see we have our summary is completed. We did a few flashcards, and then we haven't quite done our quick sim yet, or our simulation yet. So thank you for tuning in. This is the kind of the overview of the Neural Consult site. I really hope that you guys enjoy it. We spent a lot of time putting this together for students everywhere and healthcare students all over the world. So please enjoy and reach out if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, and we're happy to get back to you. Thanks.